Anna Harlow stood in the shadow of a narrow alley next to Mallister's saloon, trying to shelter herself from the fierce Wyoming wind that ripped through the streets. The wind screamed down Main Street, throwing snowflakes against the closed windows and leaning storefronts. The town, small and frozen in the grip of winter, seemed eerily quiet, the only sound being the flickering of lanterns behind frosted glass, casting dim pools of light across the snow-covered ground. She wrapped her arms around her body for warmth, feeling the cold bite into her skin. Her lips were cracked, and her fingers were numb from the chill. The thin shawl draped over her shoulders offered no relief. 3 days without food, for nights spent hiding under porches, in stables, or anywhere she could find a little protection from the cold. Her stomach grumbled painfully at the smell of beef stew wafting from the saloon, the scent rich and inviting but cruel. She clenched her jaw and looked away, trying to push the hunger down. The door to the saloon burst open, spilling warmth and the sound of rowdy laughter into the night. 2 men stumbled out, their breath steaming in the frigid air. One of them stopped, squinting into the alley. "Well, what do we have here?" Amos Kane's voice was thick with liquor and malice. He staggered forward, boots crunching in the snow. "Little bird, all alone in the cold." Anna recoiled, pressing her back against the brick wall. "Leave me be," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Amos grinned, showing yellowed teeth. Now, that ain't friendly. I got a room upstairs. Fire's warm, bed's soft. Come up with me, and I'll make sure you get supper." "I said no," Anna replied, her voice trembling with cold but firm in its resolve. Amos narrowed his eyes, taking a step closer. "You sure? You got nowhere else to go. Don't pretend like you're better than what you are," Anna snapped. "I heard about you. Folks talk." He reached for her arm. "Let go," she said, a little louder now, twisting away from him. He didn't let go. "Don't be stupid. It's a fair trade. Room and board for a bit of companionship." Before she could respond, a voice cut through the night like a sharp blade. "Leave her alone." A tall man emerged from the shadows, his broad shoulders outlined by the glow of the streetlights. A wide-brimmed hat dusted with snow sat atop his head, and his duster coat fluttered in the wind. A pale scar ran down his left cheek, contrasting against his sun-darkened skin, and his steely gray eyes fixed on Amos without wavering. "This ain't your business, stranger," Amos growled. "It is now," the man replied calmly, his voice deep and firm. Amos puffed up, trying to intimidate the newcomer. "You don't know who she is." "I know what she is right now," the man interrupted, his eyes never leaving Amos's. "Cold, hungry, and being harassed by a man who can't take no for an answer." "You calling me a liar?" Amos sneered, his hand hovering near his pistol. "I'm saying you should walk away," the stranger said evenly. A long moment passed. Amos stared at the man, then spat into the snow, sneering. "She ain't worth it anyway," he muttered before turning and stumbling back toward the saloon. Anna sagged against the wall, relief washing over her. Her legs nearly gave out, but the stranger was already by her side, his gaze full of quiet concern. "You're not all right," he observed. "I'm fine," she lied, trying to stand tall. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked, his tone gentle but insistent. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned her gaze to the ground. Without another word, he shrugged off his coat and draped it around her shoulders. It smelled of saddle leather and wood smoke, and the warmth it offered spread through her body like a balm. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, confused. "Because someone should," he replied simply. "Name's Jacob Thornton. I own a ranch outside of town." "Anna Harlow," she murmured, still unsure. "I've seen you," he continued. "I've seen you try to find honest work. I've seen you turn away from men like Amos. I know what folks are saying, but I watch people for myself. I don't judge by gossip." Anna stared at him, trying to read his face. "What's the catch?" she asked warily. "No catch," Jacob replied. "Just work. Room, board, wages. If you're willing." She shook her head, still not understanding. What kind of work? Cook, clean, keep the house running, Jacob answered. It ain't fancy, but it's honest. Anna was silent, the weight of her circumstances pressing down on her. The storm howled around them, but the warmth of his coat and his steady presence offered her a moment of peace. You trust strangers that easily? She asked. Not usually, Jacob admitted. But you don't strike me as someone who lies about the shape she's in. Are you hungry? Anna nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Yes. Then let's get you fed, Jacob said, guiding her toward his wagon. She hesitated before climbing in. The cold air bit at her skin as the wagon jerked to life, and they began to roll out into the storm. The road was rough, the snow piling up around them, but Anna felt something shift in her. Maybe this time, she was trading her pride for something more than survival. The ride was silent except for the creaking of the wagon and the occasional snort of the horses. Anna tried to focus on the warmth of Jacob's coat, the rhythmic jolt of the wagon, but the silence was heavy. Finally, she spoke. How far is your ranch? She asked, her voice still uncertain. 2 hours in good weather, Jacob replied. Might take longer tonight. Anna nodded and rubbed her stiff fingers, the cold creeping through her skin. Do you live alone? She asked. For a while now, Jacob answered, his tone short but not unfriendly. No wife, no family. She nodded again, absorbing the information. She couldn't tell if it was trust or something else that made her speak again. What kind of work do you need? Cook, clean, keep the place standing. That's all. She studied him for a moment. There was no hunger in his eyes, no slick charm. Just quiet, unyielding steadiness. And that's all. That's all, Jacob repeated. Anna didn't know what to say, but the silence felt different now. She glanced out at the vast, snow-covered landscape that stretched beyond the ranch. The land seemed endless, and yet, for the first time in a long while, she felt the pull of something more than just survival. The snow thickened as they crested a ridge, and the ranch appeared below them. A 2-story house, a barn leaning slightly to one side, and several outbuildings dusted with snow. Jacob pulled the wagon to a stop in front of the porch. That's yours, Anna asked, taking in the sight. It needs work, Jacob admitted, but it's solid. He helped her down from the wagon, his touch warm and firm, but Anna flinched involuntarily. He stepped back, giving her space. Inside the house it was cold, but not empty. Dust lingered in the air, and the furniture looked worn, but there were signs of life. Boots by the door, photos on the mantel, a quilt folded neatly on a chair. Your room's upstairs, Jacob said. Second door on the right. Anna climbed the stairs slowly. The room was small but clean, with a single bed and a window that looked out over the mountains. A handmade quilt covered the bed, its faded colors soft against the plain wood. She sat on the edge, running her fingers over the stitching, and for the first time in a long while, she felt something that wasn't just hunger or fear. It was a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. Downstairs, she heard the crackle of the fire, followed by the scent of coffee. When she returned, Jacob handed her a mug and slid a plate of bread, butter, and cold ham across the table. Simple but real. Her hands trembled as she took the mug, the warmth almost too much. You didn't have to do this, she said softly. Maybe not, Jacob replied, but I wanted to. They ate in silence, and for once, Anna didn't feel the need to explain herself. Afterward, she sat back, the weight of the world lifting from her shoulders. Maybe, just maybe, she had found more than a place to stay. Maybe she had found a chance to start over. Jacob reclined in his chair, his gaze thoughtful. There's something I should tell you. People in town will talk about your presence here, and about me being a bachelor. Anna tensed. I figured they'd say I was trading favors for shelter. She paused, swallowing hard. They already do, she muttered. Jacob met her gaze steadily. Whatever they say, it doesn't change anything here. This is your home now, for as long as you want it. The words felt like a distant echo in Anna's heart, something long forgotten. She lowered her eyes. You don't know what I've done, or what might follow me. Jacob's voice softened. I don't need to. I know you needed help. I know you said yes when you could have said no. That's enough. The wind howled outside, but within the walls of the Thornton Ranch, something warm stirred deep inside Anna. For the first time in a long while, hope flickered in her chest. Life on the ranch found its rhythm. Every morning, Anna rose before dawn, wrapped herself in the heavy shawl Jacob had given her, and lit the stove in the kitchen. She swept the floors, washed the dishes, and tried her hand at cooking simple meals. Porridge, boiled eggs, strong coffee. But on the third morning, while preparing bacon and eggs, disaster struck. The pan hissed, and her sleeve brushed the stove's edge, catching fire. She screamed and stumbled back. The door slammed open, and Jacob rushed in, grabbing the water bucket by the hearth and dousing the flames. Anna was left soaked and trembling on the kitchen floor. I'm sorry, she whispered, her breath unsteady. I can't even cook breakfast. Jacob crouched beside her, his voice calm. You're learning. That stove's tricky. It just takes time. He handed her a towel. No scolding. No judgment. Over the next hour, Jacob patiently guided her, showing her how to read the flames, adjust the dampers, and find the stove's hot spots. His hands were steady, his voice never hurried. Anna watched him closely, not just learning how to cook but noticing the way he moved, respectful, deliberate. He treated her with a patience that unsettled her more than any harshness could have. That evening, when she returned to her room, a bundle wrapped in brown paper was placed on her quilt. Inside were 2 pairs of woolen stockings, a thicker shawl, and a note in Jacob's handwriting. Thought you might need these with the cold coming in. A few days later, when the sugar ran out, Anna found a jar of honey neatly tucked into the pantry. On the table near the window, a stack of books appeared, worn novels, a slim poetry volume, and a travel journal with pressed flowers between its pages. Jacob never mentioned them, but each small offering spoke volumes. After every meal, even the burnt ones, he thanked her. He always wiped his boots before stepping inside. Quietly, without asking, he fixed the squeaky stair, the loose hinge on her window, and the broken drawer in the kitchen. One evening, after supper, Anna wandered out to the barn and found Jacob kneeling beside a calf, wrapping its injured leg with a cloth soaked in salve. You're good with them, Anna remarked. Jacob glanced up. Animals don't lie. They tell you what they need, and they don't judge. His voice was low, kind, and as she stepped closer, Anna felt something stir deep inside her. A feeling she hadn't known in years. She didn't know gentleness could look like this. Later that week, while dusting the parlor, Anna found a photograph tucked behind a row of books. A young woman with bright eyes and dark curls leaned into a younger Jacob. Both were smiling, their faces full of a belief that the world would always be kind. Just as Anna picked up the photo, Jacob's voice came from the doorway. Her heart raced. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to pry. Jacob stepped in, his expression unreadable. It's all right. I put it there so I wouldn't see it every day. But I couldn't hide her either. He took the photo from Anna's hands. Her name was Laura. He paused, his voice soft. We were supposed to get married. She died the winter before, from fever. Anna didn't speak. There was nothing to say. She believed in second chances. She believed that people could learn and grow no matter their past. She was beautiful, Anna said quietly. She must have loved you deeply. Jacob nodded, his gaze distant. She did. He placed the photograph back on the mantel. And I think she would have liked you. Those words felt like a quiet revelation in Anna's chest. She wanted to believe him, to believe that someone like her could be known and still be wanted. That night, as she returned to her room, she didn't look away from the photograph on the mantel. For once, she didn't feel like a trespasser. She felt invited. The morning sun glinted off the snow-covered fields, though the cold still cut sharply. Anna was finishing up the breakfast dishes when she heard the crunch of wagon wheels in the yard. She glanced out the window and saw Jacob returning from town, his face hidden beneath his hat. There was a tension in his shoulders, and she immediately recognized it, trouble. He stepped inside and stomped the snow from his boots. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Anna put down the towel. "What is it?" "A man's been asking around town," Jacob said. "Well-dressed. Said his name was Victor Harlow." Anna's heart skipped a beat. The name twisted in her chest like a knife. "Victor?" she whispered. "He said he's your brother." Anna turned away, gripping the edge of the sink. "He found me." Jacob crossed his arms. "What does he want?" "Silence," Anna said, her voice tight. "Victor never does anything unless it serves him." Jacob frowned but didn't interrupt as she continued. 3 years ago, Victor was courting the daughter of one of our father's business partners, Emily. She was only 17. A sweet girl, trusting. Her voice grew softer. One night, he took advantage of her. He hurt her. The next day, her family was gone, no explanation. But I saw the bruises. I knew what he did. Jacob's gaze remained firm, his jaw tight. "I told father," Anna said, but Victor had already spun his deceit. He convinced father that she was hysterical and unstable, claiming that Anna was trying to ruin him out of jealousy or malice. Jacob clenched his jaw. "And now Victor knows I could bring him down if I spoke to the right people. Judges, business partners, the upper class. His entire reputation would fall apart. He's not here to bring you home. He's here to ensure you never speak up." Jacob nodded slowly. "Then he'll find me standing in his way." Anna's heart squeezed. "I don't want you involved in this," she said softly. "I already am," Jacob replied. They were still standing in the kitchen when the sound of hooves echoed through the quiet. Anna stepped toward the window and saw a lone rider approaching the house. His coat was immaculate, and his posture too perfect to be anything but practiced. Even from a distance, she recognized the way he carried himself, Victor Harlow. He dismounted smoothly, tied the reins to the porch rail, and looked up at the house with a smug expression. Jacob moved toward the door, but Anna stopped him. "I'll handle this," she said. "I'll be right behind you." They stepped onto the porch together. Victor's smile widened at the sight of Anna. Well, there you are, little sister. You've certainly settled in," he said. "I must admit I expected something less civilized, but this," he gestured to the house, "is almost respectable." Anna met his gaze coldly. "What do you want?" "To bring you home, of course." Victor's voice dripped with false concern. "Father has been beside himself." Anna's words were sharp. "Father disowned me. Or did you forget?" Victor's smile tightened. "That was before he heard your side. I'm sure if you came back and made amends." "I'm not going back," she interrupted. Victor's eyes flicked to Jacob. "And I suppose this cowboy has something to do with your sudden defiance?" Jacob stepped forward, his voice steady. "She is not property. She makes her own choices." Victor's expression hardened. "You think she told you the truth? You think she's just some wronged girl trying to survive? Ask her about what happened in Laramie. Ask about the scandal with Jonathan Webb." He paused, his voice turning menacing. "That is not your story to twist." "Oh, but it is," Victor said smoothly. "See, it's your word against mine, dear sister, and you're already running from one mess. How many more before this man here realizes what you really are?" Jacob's voice was calm but firm. "She doesn't owe you anything. You're not welcome here." Victor's gaze sharpened. "Careful, Thornton. You think this ends with a warning? I always finish what I start." "Then start walking," Jacob said. Victor's eyes lingered on Anna, a dangerous glint passing through them. "This isn't over." He turned, mounted his horse, and rode away, the sound of hooves slowly fading into the distance as the wind swallowed the noise. Anna stood frozen on the porch, her heart racing and feeling cold despite the warmth of the sun. "He's not done," she said softly. Jacob placed a steady hand on her back. "Neither are we." Though the wind had stilled, the cold cut deeper than before. Snow crunched under the polished boots of Victor Harlow as he approached the porch again, a folded paper in one gloved hand. 2 men stood watching by the gate, impeccably dressed in dark coats and gloves. exuding an air of authority. Victor raised the paper. Anna Harlow, by authority of Sheriff Lom, I'm placing you under arrest for theft. $200 from your father's store. Jacob's voice was flat. Let me see the warrant. Victor smiled smugly. This is family business. Stay out of it. Jacob didn't move. Let me see the warrant. Victor slid the paper back into his coat. The sheriff will sort it once she's returned. I didn't steal anything, Anna said, her voice steady. Victor spread his arms in mock innocence. You vanished the same night the money did. People will draw conclusions. Anna's voice was sharp. You forged that document. Victor's cool tone remained unchanged. I don't need to forge anything. People just need a reason to question you. Like Samuel Reed. Anna's body stiffened at the mention of the name. Victor turned to Jacob. Did she tell you about him? The man who paid her when she was 17. That's enough. Anna snapped. Victor's smirk deepened. But she took the money. Same as with father. It's a pattern. Leave, Jacob said, stepping forward. Victor's hand moved quickly, and Anna could see the threat in his eyes. In a flash, Victor had a pistol pointed at Anna. She's coming with me, he snarled. In the wagon or in a box? Time seemed to stretch as Jacob lunged forward, tackling Victor to the ground. The gun flew from Victor's hand, landing in the snow. They struggled fiercely, rolling in the cold white blanket beneath them, until Victor drew a knife from his boot and slashed. Jacob gasped as the blade cut across his arm, blood staining his sleeve. Stop! Anna screamed, scrambling for the gun on the porch. Her hands trembled as she picked it up, pointing it at Victor. Let him go, she commanded, her voice shaky but firm. The knife hovered dangerously close to Jacob's throat as Victor paused, chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. You don't have the nerve, he sneered. Try me, Anna replied, her grip on the pistol tightening. One more step, and I'll pull the trigger. Victor froze, glaring at her, his fury palpable. This changes nothing, he hissed, standing tall again. But Anna stood her ground, the gun steady in her hands. I know what you've done, she said, her voice steady now. The missing funds, the fake contracts, the land you stole from my father's name. Victor smirked. You're bluffing. I watched you. Anna shot back, her eyes narrowing. I remember every deal, every lie you thought went unnoticed. Her gaze flicked briefly to his men at the gate before locking onto him once more. No one will believe you. You're just a runaway with a ruined name. I believe her, Jacob said, standing beside Anna despite the blood dripping from his sleeve. His voice was unwavering. She's a victim, not a criminal. Someone used her trust. But that doesn't define who she is. Anna felt something inside her solidify as she steadied the gun. She wasn't going to let him win. Leave, she ordered. Victor hesitated for a moment, his eyes scanning the scene. Then he gave a cold laugh. If you ever come near me again, I'll tell everyone what you've done, and I won't be alone. Victor didn't respond, his lips curling into a sneer. You'll regret this, he muttered. But he turned, brushing snow from his coat as he mounted his horse. Without another word, he rode off into the trees, his men following closely behind. Anna lowered the gun, her breath shaky. Jacob looked at her with concern. You're bleeding, he said quietly. She gave a weak smile. You should see the other guy, he joked, though his voice was raspy from the adrenaline. She let out a laugh, raw but genuine, and for the first time in a long while, she felt strong. Not because of the gun in her hand, but because someone finally saw her worth and stood beside her. The snow had started to melt around the edges of Thornton Ranch, but inside, the air felt heavier than any winter storm. Early the next morning, a knock echoed through the quiet house. Jacob stepped outside to retrieve the telegram, his face darkening as he read the contents. Anna, standing by the stove, felt a cold sense of dread coil in her stomach. What is it? She asked, sensing something had changed. Jacob handed her the telegram. Her eyes scanned the words, and her blood ran cold. Victor had filed formal charges against her. accusing her of stealing an additional $500, more than double the original amount. 3 witnesses had signed affidavits claiming to have seen her steal the money from her father's store. Anna sank into a chair, her mind racing. He's escalating. He knows I'm not running. So now he's trying to bury me. Jacob knelt beside her, his tone firm. He's bluffing. No, Anna whispered. He's building a noose with forged rope, daring me to call it false. And people are going to believe him. Jacob's expression hardened. We'll fight this. We have the truth on our side. Anna shook her head. He has money, lawyers, and connections. I have a past, rumors that follow me, and a brother who wants nothing more than to see me disappear. You have me, Jacob said softly. Anna met his gaze, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. I can't let you destroy your life over this. Jacob stood, taking her hands in his. It's too late for that. I love you. The words hung in the air, simple but undeniable. Anna's breath hitched, her heart pounding. You can't, she whispered, her voice trembling. Jacob smiled faintly. Too late for that, he repeated. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked away. If you knew everything about me, the things I've done, the things I've survived, you wouldn't say that. I know enough, he replied gently. I know you're brave, kind, and that you cook better than I do, even if the stove hates you. I know this house became a home the moment you walked through that door. For a brief moment, Anna allowed herself to believe that it was possible to be truly seen and loved. But the moment shattered as the sound of hooves and boots crunching in the snow reached her ears. Jacob moved quickly to the porch, his body tensing as Sheriff Lom appeared with 2 deputies, all 3 wearing solemn expressions beneath their hats. Miss Harlow, the sheriff said, his voice heavy. I'm afraid I have to take you into custody. Anna stepped outside, chin held high, determined not to show fear. On what charges? Theft, fraud, and fleeing prosecution, the sheriff replied, holding up a folded paper. I have a warrant. The territorial judge himself had signed it. Jacob stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the paper as he took it from the sheriff. Let me see it, he requested. The sheriff handed it over, and Jacob's eyes scanned the document, his brow furrowing as he read the number. $500. New evidence came in, Lom stated. Apparently, Miss Harlow's crime was more extensive than initially believed. Anna's hands clenched into fists. That's a lie, she said, her voice rising with frustration. Then prove it, the sheriff challenged, his tone firm. But you will need to do it in Cheyenne. Jacob's voice was calm as he responded. She has the right to contact a judge. Lom paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Technically, yes, he admitted. Anna turned to Jacob, her heart pounding in her chest. Judge Whitaker, she said, almost pleading. He knows our family. His niece. Her voice faltered, catching in her throat. Jacob's eyes widened as he caught her meaning. The girl Victor hurt, he muttered. Anna nodded, her expression determined. He will listen. Jacob turned to the sheriff, his tone unwavering. Let us send 1 telegram. That's all we ask. The sheriff sighed, looking reluctant. Fine, but I cannot wait long. You have until tomorrow morning. I will ride into town myself, Jacob said resolutely. I'll send it within the hour. Anna watched from the porch as Jacob prepared his horse, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. What if he doesn't answer? She asked, her voice small with fear. Then we will figure out what comes next together, Jacob reassured her. She stepped forward, her hand resting against his chest, and looked up at him. You meant what you said. Jacob looked down at her, his gaze steady. Every word. With that, he rode off toward town, the telegram pressing against his coat, carrying Anna's last hope in a simple message. Investigate Victor Harlow. Ask about Emily. Truth matters more than blood. The morning was still, the sky a pale gray as sunlight began to break over the mountains. Jacob stood on the porch, reading a yellow telegram. His eyes moved quickly over the words before he stepped back inside. Anna was sitting at the table, her gaze tired and worn from waiting through the night. "Well?" she asked, her voice rough from exhaustion. Jacob handed her the telegram. "It's from Judge Whittaker." With trembling hands, Anna unfolded the paper. As her eyes scanned the words, her breath caught in her throat. Victor Harlow under investigation for fraud and possible involvement in Emily Rollins' death. Federal inquiry underway. Charges against Anna Harlow under review. Federal marshal en route hold position. Anna's heart skipped a beat. "He believed me," she whispered, barely able to speak. Jacob knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. "Of course he did." Anna blinked, a glimmer of hope beginning to rise within her. "Then maybe I have a chance." "You always did," Jacob said softly, his words a quiet reassurance. By midday, Marshal Evans arrived, a tall man in a dark coat dusted with snow. He stepped into the parlor, carrying a worn notebook, while his two deputies stayed outside. "Miss Harlow," he said, tipping his hat, "I was sent by Judge Whittaker to begin a formal investigation. I need you to tell me everything." Anna sat stiffly, her hands clenched in her lap. Jacob sat beside her, silently offering his hand. She took it, finding comfort in his presence. "I was 17, Anna began, her voice soft but steady. "Victor was already my father's favorite. He knew it. He used it. I noticed the ledgers weren't right, missing money, fake entries. Victor always brushed it off." Marshal Evans nodded, urging her to continue. "Go on." "Then Emily came along. She was sweet, trusted Victor. I warned her, but she believed he meant to marry her," Anna said, her voice faltering as painful memories resurfaced. "I found her crying. She didn't say much, but the bruises—" The next morning, her family just vanished. They left town without a word. She paused, taking a deep breath. "I tried to tell my father, but Victor got there first. He told him I was jealous, that I lied. And then there were the financial matters. Victor forged land deals, moved money into shell companies. I recognized the names. He used ones I'd helped file when I worked at the store." Marshal Evans scribbled notes as Anna spoke, his eyes never leaving her face. "And the charges against you?" he asked, his voice low. "All lies," Anna replied fiercely. "I never stole anything. He created the story, bought the witnesses. That's how he works." The marshal finished writing and looked up at her. "I believe you." Anna blinked, her mind reeling. "We've already discredited 2 of his witnesses," the marshal continued. "Judge Whittaker confirmed that Emily died from internal injuries consistent with assault. Her family only just spoke up." Anna felt her breath catch as the marshal's words sank in. "Effective immediately," he said. "The charges against you are dropped. Victor Harlow is wanted for fraud, obstruction, and possibly more. We'll find him." Tears filled Anna's eyes, but not from fear. This time they were tears of relief, of freedom. Jacob hadn't let go of her hand once, his presence a steady comfort in the storm. As the marshal left, Jacob remained by her side, silent, but unwavering. "I didn't think this day would come," Anna whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. "You earned it," Jacob replied softly, his words filled with quiet pride. She had fought for everything, but she knew she couldn't have done it alone. He didn't expect her to explain, never pressured her to do so. She turned to him, a soft smile playing on her lips. He reached out and gently brushed away a tear from her cheek, his voice a whisper. "I see you, Anna. Not the version they made you out to be. Just you." Outside, the wind stirred softly, but the house felt peaceful, no longer weighed down by the silence. Anna, still holding his hand, leaned back. The past hadn't disappeared, but it no longer controlled her. Not here. Not with him. The new day arrived, the sunlight bathing the snow-covered fields in golden hues. The birds returned, filling the air with their songs, and the cold that had lingered for weeks slowly faded. For the first time in ages, Anna Harlow felt as though she could breathe freely. The past might still linger in the corners of her mind, but it no longer had the power to hold her captive. Jacob stood on the porch, a mug of coffee in hand, his arm still bandaged under his coat. As Anna stepped outside, he turned to her with a soft smile. "You slept," he remarked. "For the first time in days," she replied. They stood in silence, watching the sky change from amber to blue. Jacob set down his mug and spoke again. "I've been thinking a lot about everything we've been through and what's next." Anna held her breath as he continued. "I built this ranch to stand for a family, for a future I didn't think I'd ever have. But then you came." He knelt before her, pulling out a simple silver band from his pocket, worn and braided. "Will you marry me?" he asked. Her heart raced. Once, she had sacrificed dignity for warmth, trudging through the snow, carrying the weight of shame with only her determination to keep her going. Now, a man knelt before her not to save her, but because he saw the strength within her. "Yes," she whispered, then more firmly, "Yes, Jacob Thornton." He slid the ring onto her finger, pulling her into an embrace that wasn't desperate but grounding, real. A few days later, a letter arrived. Anna recognized the handwriting immediately, precise, formal, almost cold. She held it for a long moment before breaking the seal. "My dearest Anna," it began, "I write with more shame than a father should ever carry. Marshal Evans came to me last week. He showed me everything, Victor's lies, his crimes, and the pain I caused by believing the wrong child. I have no excuse. I should have listened. I should have seen beyond my pride. I failed you. If you can forgive a foolish old man, I'd like to see you again. Not to bring you home, but to understand the woman you've become. I will not interfere with your life, but I hope it's one filled with peace and love. Your father, Nathaniel Harlow." Tears blurred her vision as she read the letter again. "He wrote," she whispered. "He finally understands." Jacob found her in the parlor, the letter pressed against her chest. He read it quietly, then gently placed it beside Laura's photo on the mantel. "You can go to him," he said softly. "I don't want to leave, not now, but maybe one day," Anna replied. "When you do," Jacob said, "you won't go alone." Spring arrived, bringing with it the promise of renewal. Snow melted, the earth began to bloom, and the birds returned to build their nests. The ranch came alive again. Anna and Jacob worked side by side, mending fences, planting vegetables, and repainting the porch. They laughed more freely, their plans for the future no longer clouded by fear. One evening, as dusk settled over the land, painting the sky in shades of pink and lavender, they stood on the porch together. Anna leaned against Jacob, his arm warm around her shoulders. "Do you ever wonder?" she asked. "What would have happened if I had gone with Victor that night?" Jacob paused, thinking before replying. "I think the snow would still have fallen, and the wind would have howled, but this porch would have been empty, and I'd still be waiting for something I didn't know I needed." Anna smiled, her gaze on the horizon. "This place, it's more than just shelter. It's home." They stood together, watching as the last light faded beyond the hills. The storm had passed, leaving behind only hope, a new season, and the promise of a new life together. In a world where storms never asked for permission and the past never fully let go, they had chosen each other. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Wild West Love Stories, where we share timeless tales of love, loss, and redemption from the wild, untamed heart of the American frontier. Hit the bell so you never miss a story where bullets may have missed, but hearts never did.